After 15 years of quiet success, my family finally discovered my net worth.
I never thought silence could become both my shield and my prison. For 15 long years, I lived with a secret that no one, absolutely no one, around me knew. Not my family, not my closest friends, not even the people I trusted most in this world. On the surface, I looked ordinary. I played the part of the quiet girl who blended into the background. I worked, I came home, I smiled when people expected me to, and I kept conversations short. To everyone else, my life seemed steady, predictable, and maybe even a little boring. And honestly, that's how I wanted it to look. But inside, behind closed doors, my life was nothing like what people imagined. Every single day, I was building something. Something I couldn't talk about. Something I didn't dare reveal. While people thought I was just scraping by, I was stacking every dollar, every ounce of energy, into a future that was bigger than anything they could have pictured for me. And yet, instead of shouting it from the rooftops, I chose silence. Why? Because from the very beginning, I was taught that people like me weren't supposed to make it. I still remember the faces of my teachers when they looked at me, almost like they had already written my future on my forehead. Failure. I remember neighbors who never asked me about my dreams, only about trouble. I remember bosses who looked past me, who always gave the promotions to someone else, someone who didn't look like me. The world didn't see my worth, and after a while, I learned not to show it. So I hid it. Day after day, I kept my head down, saving, sacrificing, pushing through. And slowly, quietly, I built a fortune. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't overnight. It was the result of years of grinding, years of discipline, years of choosing silence over bragging, humility over recognition. My family saw the clothes I wore, the small apartment I lived in, and they assumed that was my reality. They assumed I was just average, and I let them believe that. But silence is heavy. I didn't realize how much it was crushing me until it started to slip. At first, it was just little things. My mom asking why I never seemed to struggle with bills. My brother joking about how I never borrowed money, unlike everyone else in the family. Then it was someone spotting a piece of mail I had accidentally left out. A bank statement that hinted at numbers far bigger than what they thought I had. Those little questions grew louder. The whispers spread, and I could feel the suspicion creeping into every room I walked into. The first real crack came during a family dinner. We were all sitting around the table, passing dishes, laughing, and for a moment, it felt normal. But then, someone, half joking, half serious, said, "Alic, what are you hiding from us? You never complain about money. You live too comfortably for someone who's supposed to be struggling like the rest of us." Everyone laughed, but their eyes were sharp. They weren't really joking. My heart pounded in my chest. I forced a smile, brushed it off, but I could feel the tension. They were watching me differently now. They weren't just seeing the quiet girl anymore. They were searching for cracks in the mask. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, asking myself how much longer I could keep the secret buried. Part of me wanted to scream the truth, to finally stand up and say, "I made it. I did what you thought I couldn't." But a bigger part of me was terrified. Terrified of the judgment, the jealousy, the disbelief. Because I knew deep down, they wouldn't celebrate me. They would question me. They would doubt me. They would tell me I didn't deserve it. And I was right. The real explosion came not long after. I don't even know who found it first. A password left on a paper, an email opened on the wrong screen. But suddenly, the numbers I had hidden for 15 years were out in the open. My net worth, my savings, my entire silent success laid bare for everyone to see. The moment it came out, the room froze. You could have heard a pin drop. My family just stared at me, their eyes wide, their mouths half open. And then the storm began. How could you hide this from us? Where did this come from? Are you doing something illegal? Why didn't you trust your own family? The voices came one after another, louder and sharper, each question cutting deeper than the last. My hands shook. My throat closed. I wanted to explain, to tell them about the years of sacrifice, the nights I cried alone, the rejection, the discrimination, the endless grind. But they weren't ready to listen. They didn't see the story behind the numbers. They only saw the money. And then came the line that shattered me completely. You don't deserve this. I can still hear it in my head. That voice, cold and bitter, echoing louder than all the rest. In that moment, I felt the weight of every injustice I had ever carried pressing down on me. All the years I stayed silent to protect myself. All the walls I built to survive. They collapsed in an instant. And as I stood there, surrounded by eyes filled with judgment instead of love, I realized silence had saved me for 15 years, but now it had betrayed me. The words hung in the air like a knife. You don't deserve this. I felt the blood drain from my face, my hands trembling as I clutched the edge of the table to steady myself. I wanted to scream, to cry, to fight back, but nothing came out. My chest felt tight, my throat closed up. All I could do was look around at the faces staring back at me, the same faces I had once trusted, the same family I had kept close all these years. But their eyes weren't filled with love anymore. They were filled with suspicion, jealousy, and something even darker, resentment. It was as if, in an instant, I had become a stranger to them. My sister was the first to stand up. Tell us, Tad. Truth, Alic. Where did this money come from? Because no one like you earns that kind of success honestly. No one like you. That line stung more than anything else. I knew exactly what she meant. She wasn't just questioning where the money came from. She was questioning me. Questioning whether I was even capable of achieving what I had built. And it wasn't just her. Every glance, every whisper, every frown from across that table carried the same poisoned message. We don't believe you earned this. We don't believe you deserve it. I wanted to tell them everything. I wanted to pour out the truth about the years I worked 2 jobs, the countless times I was turned away because of the way I looked, the way I spoke, the times I was told I wasn't a good fit while watching less qualified people get chosen instead. I wanted them to understand the fire that pushed me, the discipline it took, the nights I went hungry just so I could save a little more. But I didn't say it, because deep down, I knew it wouldn't matter. To them, my success wasn't a miracle. It was a crime. The questions grew sharper, the voices louder. My uncle demanded to know if I was laundering money. My cousin whispered about drugs. My brother accused me of lying for years, of betraying the family by hiding what I had. No one asked if I was okay. No one asked if I needed support. No one said, "I'm proud of you." Instead, I stood there alone in a room full of people I thought loved me. The weight of that night broke something in me. I went home and locked the door behind me, collapsing onto the floor in the dark. I pressed my face into my hands and sobbed until my throat burned. 15 years of silence. 15 years of hiding my worth. And for what? For this? For the people I loved most to see me not as someone who had overcome, but as someone who must have cheated their way into success? But the worst part, T wasn't even their doubt. The worst part was realizing how much their words echoed what the world outside had always told me. That someone like me wasn't supposed to rise. That night, I broke down again. I thought about all those years of hard work, every extra shift, every night I came home too exhausted to eat, every time I kept my head down when someone disrespected me because I knew I needed the job. And now, all that sacrifice was twisted into suspicion. They didn't see effort. They didn't see resilience. They saw a criminal. But the worst night of all came later. I had gone to another family gathering, against my better judgment, hoping maybe things had cooled down. Maybe they had taken time to reflect. Maybe, just maybe, they would understand me this time. But I was wrong. The moment I walked in, I felt it. The tension was thick. Eyes darted toward me, some filled with anger, others with something sharper, envy. I sat quietly, forcing myself to eat, to smile, to act normal. But the questions came, one by one, chipping away at me. Why didn't you help us if you had all this money? Who gave it to you? Be honest. Are you ashamed of us? Is that why you kept it hidden? I tried to answer calmly, but my voice trembled. I told them I worked for it, that I sacrificed for it, that it wasn't luck and it wasn't illegal. It was 15 years of blood, sweat, and tears. But they didn't believe me. They never believed me. And then, in the middle of that suffocating silence, my brother slammed his hand on the table. His voice cut through the room like a blade. You don't deserve this, Alic. Not you. Those words pierced me deeper than anything else. Not you. Not me. As if my very existence, my identity, made success impossible. As if no matter what I did, how hard I worked, or how much I sacrificed, it would never be enough for them to see me as worthy. I felt something inside me snap. The years of silence. The years of swallowing my pain. The years of letting the world think I was invisible. It all erupted at once. Tears blurred my vision as I stood, my voice shaking but louder than I had ever allowed it to be. You don't know the nights I went hungry just to save a little more. You don't know the times I worked 2 jobs while you slept. You don't know the humiliation I endured, the doors slammed in my face, the people who said I wasn't good enough because of the way I look. You don't know, because you never cared to ask. And now, when I finally built something, you don't see my struggle. You only see my money. You don't see me. The room went silent, but it wasn't the silence of understanding. It was the silence of walls closing in. Their faces were cold, unmoved, some even smirking like they'd caught me confessing to a crime I never committed. And in that moment, I realized the full weight of my reality. It didn't matter how hard I worked. It didn't matter how much I achieved. To them, and to so many others like them, I would never be enough. My chest tightened, my breath coming fast. For the first time in years, I felt completely powerless. My secret had protected me for so long, but now, stripped bare in front of the people I loved most, I understood the cruel truth. Silence had been my shield, but it had also been my curse. Because now, there was no going back. The truth was out. The judgment was real. And the person I thought I had become, the strong, successful, disciplined woman who had overcome the odds, was being ripped apart piece by piece, replaced with a caricature painted by doubt and prejudice. As I stood there trembling, the room closing in around me, I knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. When I walked out of that house, I knew something had ended. The air was cold that night, but the chill I felt had nothing to do with the weather. It was the weight pressing down on my chest, the quiet truth that I could no longer deny. My family would never look at me the same way again. I drove home in silence, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. My mind replayed the voices, the accusations, the words that cut so deep. You don't deserve this. Not you. It was as if those words had been carved into me, echoing over and over, louder than the sound of the engine, louder than my own heartbeat. When I finally stepped inside my apartment, I collapsed onto the floor. The tears came before I even realized it. I cried for the 15 years I had carried that secret alone. I cried for the girl who had clawed her way through rejection, discrimination, and endless nights of loneliness, only to have her victory twisted into suspicion. I cried because, for the first time, I realized that even the people I thought I was protecting with my silence could turn against me when faced with the truth. But beneath the tears, something else stirred, something heavier, something sharper. Anger. I thought about the teachers who told me I'd never make it past high school. I thought about the bosses who said I wasn't management material, even while I trained people who went on to outrank me. I thought about the landlords who demanded to see extra paperwork, the bankers who side-eyed my applications, the people who treated me like I didn't belong anywhere success could be found. And then, I thought about my own family, looking at me with the same suspicion, the same doubt, the same disbelief. It hit me then. This wasn't just about money. It wasn't even about family. This was about something deeper. Something that had been there my entire life, lurking in every shadow, hiding in every smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. It was about the world never wanting to believe that someone like me could succeed. And that's when I realized I couldn't let silence be my prison anymore. For 15 years, I thought I was protecting myself by keeping quiet, by hiding what I had built. But all I had done was allow the lies to grow stronger. Lies that said I wasn't capable. Lies that said I didn't deserve success. Lies that said my worth could be questioned. Just because of the color of my skin, or the neighborhood I came from, or the fact that I didn't look like the picture people had in their heads when they thought of success. I was done with silence. But the road forward wasn't easy. My family remained distant. Some refused to speak to me. Others only reached out with cold questions, never warmth. At work, the stares didn't disappear overnight. I knew the rumors hadn't died. They had just gone quiet, waiting for me to make one wrong move. The trust I once had, both at home and outside, was shattered. Still, something had shifted inside me. I no longer wanted to prove myself to them. I no longer needed their approval to validate the years of work I had poured into my life. For the first time, I began to see my story for what it really was. A fight, not just for myself, but for every single person who has ever been doubted, underestimated, or judged before they even opened their mouth. And I realized, this story isn't just mine. It belongs to the millions of people who live in silence, hiding their victories because they're afraid the world will twist them into something ugly. It belongs to the countless voices silenced by judgment, by prejudice, by the unspoken rule that says success has limits for people like us. It belongs to anyone who has ever been told, "You don't deserve this," when in reality, they earned every bit of it and more. That night, as I sat by my window staring out at the city lights, I made myself a promise. I wouldn't let my silence define me anymore. I wouldn't let their disbelief steal my worth. My story may have been born in silence, but it wouldn't end that way. And so I ask you, how many more stories like mine will it take? How many more lives will be doubted? How many more successes dismissed before the world finally begins to see us for who we are and not for who they've decided we should? Be? Because if my silence taught me anything, it's this. Hiding doesn't protect you. It only robs the world of the truth. And the truth is, our worth doesn't need their permission.
I've thought about that night 1,000 times since it happened. I've replayed every word, every look, every silence that followed after my truth was exposed. Sometimes I still hear the echoes in my sleep, the accusations, the disbelief, the cruel sting of, "You don't deserve this." And each time, it cuts just as deep. But the more I sit with it, the more I've come to understand something I never saw before. This wasn't just my story. This wasn't just my family's reaction. This wasn't just one moment of judgment in a single room. What happened to me is happening everywhere, every single day, to people who dare to succeed when the world has already decided they shouldn't. For 15 years, I thought silence would save me. I thought if I stayed quiet, worked hard, and kept my head down, no one would notice. I thought I could outrun the stereotypes, the prejudice, the way people look at you and make decisions about your worth before you even open your mouth. I thought I could build my life in peace, and then, maybe one day, reveal the truth and be celebrated for it. But silence didn't save me. It only delayed the storm. When the truth finally came out, it wasn't met with pride or joy. It was met with suspicion, with jealousy, with anger. The very people I thought I was protecting turned against me, and the world outside was no different. They didn't want to believe I had earned it. They wanted a darker story, something that fit their expectations. That's when I realized the most painful truth of all. Silence may keep you safe for a while, but it will never set you free. So now, I speak. I tell this story, not because it's easy, it still hurts, but because I know I'm not alone. There are so many others out there, carrying their worth in silence, terrified of what the world will say if they show it. People who have worked harder than anyone can imagine, only to be met with doubt when they finally make it. People who hide their victories because they've been taught that celebrating them will only bring judgment. To anyone listening who feels this way, I see you. I know your silence. I know the weight you carry. And I know the fear of being doubted, dismissed, and torn down the moment you step into the light. But hear me when I say this. Your worth is real. Your success is real. And it does not need their permission. I won't pretend that breaking the silence is easy. It isn't. It comes with risk, with heartbreak, with the possibility of losing people you thought would stand by your side. I've lived that. I've felt that loss in my bones. But I've also realized something else. Hiding who you are robs the world of the truth, and it robs you of your freedom. So here I am, speaking the truth that I once kept buried for 15 years. Not to brag, not to prove anything, but to stand as proof that we can rise even when the world tries to keep us down, that we can succeed even when every voice says we can't, that we can carry our worth in the open even when others try to deny it. And now, I'll leave you with this. How many more stories like mine will it take before things change? How many more voices have to break their silence? How many more truths have to be exposed before the world finally learns to celebrate instead of condemn? Because if there's one thing I know now, it's this. Silence can shield you, but it cannot save you. The only thing that can truly save you is the courage to be seen. So I'm asking you, not just to hear my story, but to carry it with you. Share it. Talk about it. Let it remind you of the countless people out there still living in silence, still waiting to be seen, still waiting for the world to believe in their worth. Maybe my family never will. Maybe some people never will. But if even one person listening to this finds the strength to break their own silence, then my story has done what it was always meant to do. Because my name is Alic Rose, and this is my truth. And now, it's yours too.